Is Iran a genuine threat to the United States? Iran's complex history, its regional influence, and its military capabilities often place it at the center of U.S. foreign policy discussions. But does Iran have the power to truly challenge the U.S. on the global stage? And if so, how? While Iran does not possess the conventional military power to rival the United States, it has adopted asymmetric warfare strategies that make it a formidable force in its region. The relationship between Iran and the U.S. has been shrouded in tension for decades. From proxy wars to nuclear ambitions, the media is filled with narratives of a looming threat. But how real is it? Is Iran truly a danger to the U.S., or is this fear a product of politics and history? Stay tuned as we dive into the complexities of this geopolitical power struggle and uncover the truth. To understand the current dynamics, it's essential to explore the history of U.S.-Iran relations. US-Iran relations haven't always been hostile. In fact, the two nations were allies during the early to mid-20th century. This relationship changed drastically after the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which overthrew the US-backed Shah and replaced him with a theocratic government led by Ayatollah Khomeini. Since then, Iran has positioned itself as an opponent of U.S. influence in the Middle East. Key moments like the Iran hostage crisis in 1979, U.S. support for Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War, and the U.S. withdrawal from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal have all deepened tensions. But does this deep-seated hostility translate into a tangible threat? Let's dive into the details. Iran's military capabilities. Iran's military strength is often debated. Although Iran lacks the conventional military strength to compete with the United States, it has embraced asymmetric warfare tactics that make it a significant force within its region. 1. Missile program. Iran's ballistic missile program is one of the largest in the Middle East, and it has been developed over decades as a deterrent against foreign aggression. While these missiles are unlikely to directly hit the U.S. mainland, they pose a serious threat to U.S. military bases and allies in the region, particularly in the Persian Gulf. 2. Proxy forces. Iran's influence extends through proxy groups across the Middle East, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to various militias in Iraq and Syria. These groups act as extensions of Iranian foreign policy, providing the regime with the ability to destabilize its enemies indirectly. 3. Cyber capabilities. In recent years, Iran has also invested heavily in cyber warfare. It has launched numerous cyber attacks on critical infrastructure and government entities across the globe, including in the U.S. This digital threat is significant, as it could disrupt industries, financial markets, and military operations without direct confrontation. While Iran's military might not stack up to U.S. capabilities, its regional influence and unconventional warfare make it difficult to ignore. But is this enough to label Iran a real threat? Before we dive deeper into Iran's political landscape and global alliances, let me ask you, what do you think? Is Iran a real threat to the U.S., or is this just political fearmongering? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying this deep dive into geopolitics. Your support helps us bring you more content like this. One of the most controversial aspects of Iran's perceived threat to the U.S. revolves around its nuclear ambitions. Iran insists its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, but many in the international community, including the U.S., believe otherwise. The JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The 2015 nuclear deal was meant to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions. However, after the U.S. withdrew from the deal in 2018, tensions skyrocketed again. Iran resumed uranium enrichment, inching closer to what some fear could be the development of a nuclear weapon. Nuclear deterrence. If Iran were to obtain nuclear weapons, it would dramatically alter the balance of power in the Middle East. This is the scenario that keeps policymakers in Washington up at night. A nuclear-armed Iran would not only be able to deter U.S. military action, but also exert more influence over its neighbors. The question remains, is Iran pursuing nuclear weapons to safeguard its sovereignty, or is it aiming to assert dominance in the Middle East and beyond? Either way, the U.S. sees this as a direct challenge to its global leadership. Another key factor in assessing the threat posed by Iran is its global alliances. Despite being largely isolated from Western nations due to sanctions and political tensions, Iran has built strategic relationships with powerful nations that challenge U.S. influence, most notably Russia and China. These partnerships provide Iran with political, economic, and military support, allowing it to maintain a stronger foothold on the global stage. Both Russia and China have strong vested interests in Tehran, providing Iran with crucial support that complicates U.S. efforts to contain or isolate the regime. These global alliances not only bolster Iran's position on the international stage, but also complement its broader regional strategy. While these partnerships enhance Iran's global standing, its influence within the Middle East remains equally significant. Iran has established itself as a leader within the axis of resistance, which includes Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. Its role in propping up the Assad regime in Syria and its influence over the Iraqi government has made it a central player in the future of the Middle East. The more regional influence Iran gains, the more difficult it becomes for the U.S. to control outcomes in the region. This complex web of alliances makes Iran's threat more than just a military one. It's a challenge to U.S. influence in the Middle East and beyond. How has the U.S. responded to the perceived threat from Iran? For years, Washington has employed a strategy of maximum pressure, using economic sanctions to cripple Iran's economy and limit its ability to fund its military activities and nuclear program. However, this approach has had mixed results. While sanctions have undoubtedly hurt Iran's economy, they have also hardened the regime's resolve to resist U.S. influence. Moreover, sanctions alone are unlikely to prevent Iran from continuing its nuclear program or using proxy forces to destabilize the region. The U.S. has also relied on a military presence in the Gulf, with thousands of troops stationed in nearby countries to act as a deterrent. But is this enough? Or is a more comprehensive diplomatic solution needed? It's also important to consider Iran's geography. Iran's strategic location and mountainous terrain have played a pivotal role in shaping its geopolitical resilience and internal dynamics. Iran is a country defined by its geography. The Zagros Mountains to the west, the Alborz Mountains to the north, and the Lut and Kavir deserts in the center create natural fortifications that have historically shielded the country from foreign invasions. These geographical features form a fortress around Iran's core cities and infrastructure, making large-scale invasions and occupations exceedingly difficult. For example, during the Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988, Iraq's superior military struggled to penetrate Iran's mountainous western frontiers. The rugged terrain slowed advances and forced invaders into protracted battles in unfavorable conditions. Additionally, Iran's southern coastline, which stretches along the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, provides the country with strategic control over the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway is one of the world's most vital oil routes, and Iran has used it as a geopolitical tool, further enhancing its strategic leverage. However, while the coastline gives Iran control over key maritime routes, its mountainous borders often confine its influence largely to the mainland, limiting its naval capabilities. While Iran's mountains and deserts offer protection, they also confine the country's expansion and create significant internal challenges. The varied geographical features that have historically defended Iran also act as barriers between its own diverse population groups. Iran is home to numerous ethnic minorities, including Kurds, Azeris, Baluchis, Arabs, and Turkmen, many of whom live in isolated, geographically distinct regions. The physical isolation of these groups has allowed them to preserve their distinct languages, cultures, and traditions, creating ongoing tensions with the Persian-dominated central government in Tehran. Iran's geography is both its greatest strength and its most significant limitation. The mountainous terrain and deserts have protected it from foreign invasions. But these same features also isolate Iran's various ethnic groups, making centralization difficult. Moreover, while Iran's strategic location gives it significant leverage in the region, it also confines its expansionist ambitions. These dynamics have shaped Iran's geopolitical strategies, focusing more on proxy influence than direct territorial control. So, is Iran a real threat to the U.S.? The answer isn't black and white. While Iran lacks the conventional military power to rival the U.S., its influence in the Middle East, its missile and cyber capabilities, and its nuclear ambitions make it a formidable force. Moreover, its alliances with global powers like Russia and China complicate the situation further. What we do know is that the U.S.-Iran relationship will continue to shape the future of global geopolitics. As both nations navigate this complex landscape, the potential for conflict and the consequences of such a conflict remain very real. If you found this breakdown of U.S.-Iran relations insightful, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. For more on this topic, check out our video on Iran's attacks on Israel to dive even deeper into the regional dynamics. We cover the most important geopolitical issues to keep you informed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.